$96 million. Get BIN News now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Head to Waba Grill weekdays after 3 p.m. for their $5 happy hour and try their new Chili Crisp dumplings. Bold, crunchy, and toss in a fiery crisp paired with a premium Waba beverage drink like their authentic Thai tea. Get both for just $5 only at Waba Grill. It's for you.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers' 3-game winning streak was snapped in Denver Thursday night. The Nuggets beat the Lakers 120-113. Another major milestone for LeBron in his 23-year career. He passed Kareem Abdul-Jabbar for the most made baskets in NBA history. Kareem had the record with 15,837. LeBron made 7 shots last night, giving him a career total of 15,842. LeBron passed Kareem in 2023 to become the NBA's all-time scoring leader. His 16 points last night gives him a record total of 43,127. The Clippers are in San Antonio tonight. A win would put the Clippers at 500 for the first time since November 3rd, when they were 3-3. San Antonio is the number 2 team in the Western Conference. They are 13-1 since February 1st. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
I believe that we will go from guttermost to uttermost. I believe that we will go from slave ship to championship. I believe that we will go from outhouse to state house to courthouse to White House. I believe.
He served alongside Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He ran for president. He kept hope alive for millions of fellow citizens. This Friday, March 6th, KBLA Talk 1580 will carry the homegoing services of the Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson Sr. live from Chicago, beginning at 8 a.m. Pacific. Join us as we say farewell to a giant, a preacher, a warrior, a man who never stopped fighting for justice. The homegoing service of Reverend Jesse Jackson. This Friday, live starting at 8 a.m. Pacific, only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hold your head high. Stick your chest out. It gets dark sometimes, but the morning comes. Don't you surrender. And you hold on and hold out. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive.
KBLA Talk 1580. It is time for Freedmen Friday. We do this every Friday. We talk reparations. We're going to get up to speed. We're going to keep on top of what's going on. We'll be part of the momentum for reparations and be smarter about it. We've been doing this almost 2 years now, every Friday, and there's no end in sight. So excited to have here with me in the studio an author, professor, and humanitarian. He has been at the forefront of Black Lives Matter movement, of scholarship around reparations, of racial healing and transformation, Racial Healing and Transformation Commission. He was part of the movement to make that bill happen by Congresswoman Barbara Lee. And you've seen him on MSNBC, NPR, BBC, and of course KBLA. Dr. Marcus Anthony Hunter, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning. You already know, in with the queen.
Well, thank you. You know, it's funny. Words have power. When Moneybees says you're the queen, then you're the queen.
That's right.
So it's a weird point in the reparations movement, I think, because we can trace it all the way back to our enslavement when some people were already thinking about it, and then I feel like you can kind of go into the era of Pan-Africanism, really strong Pan-Africanism, and the era of Charles Ogletree and those folks really trying to get reparations through in the courts. Then more recently, a legislative period where people have been finding success, notably Dr. Shirley Weber, in standing up a commission here, a task force here in California, which seems to have spread all across the country, which gave a surge of hope. Where do you see where we are now?
Yeah, I think that we're in an important moment where, one, in terms of the political environment, folks might argue that the appetite for reparative justice may be on a diet in terms of the nation. And at the same time, when you're in that space, it's an opportunity as a movement to regather yourself, reconvene, and sharpen your demands. Because now you're in a more unfriendly environment. And so oftentimes when you have friendlies, you might compromise what you ask for. And so the movement has really been in a place of thinking about ways to unify around a larger strategy, to not only think about the federal legislation, H.R. 40, shout out to Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley, but also how to quilt that through line across the nation where there are cities and states that are engaging in this process in an environment where America is on a reparative justice diet. And so part of what we've been really thinking about is what are some of the major issues that connect us. And one of the big ones is an issue of governance. So in most cases, what's happening is in states and towns and cities and regions, it's usually some form of government that is initiating or inaugurating said kind of commissions. So part of what the question becomes is, are the governments who created or generated the harm equally as capable of repairing the harm? And also capable of repairing the harm in conversation and collaboration with the communities or the class of those who have been impacted or victimized along the way.
And that's a really, really big question. I mean, I think we were talking off the air here in California. It seemed like we had so much momentum. And then we had that terrible legislative session where, from my analysis, it was due to the pressure from the governor and infighting with the California Legislative Black Caucus. They did not get those bills across the finish line. The following session, there's a watered-down version of the Bureau, right? And then the governor vetoes everything else, except for the study that he wanted, which basically slow walks the reparations process.
Absolutely.
In Baltimore, in Maryland, the governor vetoed, and then that veto was overridden. But we got to wonder how much momentum any commission or task force is going to have when the governor is against the plan.
Absolutely. And also to be relying on the governor to do something for a group of people who have been waiting hundreds and hundreds of years. And part of what happens with reparative justice or reparations is if you are an elected official and you are in favor or supportive, it almost creates a cover for you to not be 100% supportive, because we're supposed to accept, hey, you're 50% there. A lot of people are 0%, so we can take the scraps that you're giving us. And the other thing that I think a lot of people may not be aware of, but in the case of California, shout out to Assembly Member Isaac Bryan, AB 7, which was really a cost-free policy based on the commission's report that would have allowed for institutions of higher education to make special considerations for descendants of chattel slavery. And what was interesting about that is that got vetoed by the governor. And part of what was strange is we had a complete support in terms of the assembly. I and many other faculty brought students from across the Southern California area at local universities and high schools to go up and, go on the record as proponents and support with a lot of enthusiasm. So we're taking flights to Sacramento, coming back to LA at night. These are students who are compromising their own coursework, only for that to all go up in this kind of not right now phase. And then the question is, if not now, when, honestly? And also, I don't like this approach where if you're in favor of reparations and you do a commission, then you feel you've done all you have to do because the bar is so low. And that then means anything that's in addition to, we kind of figure out how it makes it difficult for you. Back to your point in Maryland, first Black governor, Wes Moore, vetoes a bill that was majority endorsed by his own party in his actual legislature. So that's also where it's like, make that make sense. The legislature is already giving you cover as the governor, like they're saying we want to do this. For you to veto it then puts you at this weird proposition. And his answer was, we don't need any more studies. And so I've still been waiting for Governor Wes Moore to produce what his strategy of solutions are. If you don't think that we need to study it anymore, where are the reparative justice solutions? And those have yet to come from the governor's office.
Yeah, it's a kind of the opposite strategy of Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom's more and more studies, yes. Study forever, never get to reparations, and Governor Moore is saying, well, no, enough studies, let's do nothing.
Right.
So it's weird because, like you said, it's almost like the whole dog catching the car proposition. Mm-hmm. They want to symbolically support, but again. And we've talked about this before on this show. It's almost like you need lawmakers that don't want to be president or don't have ambitions for their futures, because reparations can still be toxic in their eyes in terms of a broader electorate, the voters who aren't Black.
Right. I was about to say, and it's toxic when applied to African American and Black people. If it were reparations for other things, which has happened, rural farmers, for police crimes in Chicago, for Japanese Americans who were interned, that didn't have the same kind of toxicity attached to it. And part of why it's toxic for folks is because there's a fear that accompanies it. What happens in a world where Black people actually get justice? I mean, we think about that across so many different forms of injustice, that there is this fear that if Black people got some form of justice, we would take over the world, or we would, go through and purge the nation. I am unsure, but it's definitely a fear. And I also think people have to understand that, when you're vetoing something, you're also vetoing a momentum. It isn't just like one day people wake up in the assembly and say, okay, we're going to have AB 7. That is a long process that requires a lot of advocacy and a lot of hard work on behalf of both the member and also the community. And when you say, you're just afraid of how people are going to respond, you're really diminishing those who have been responsive. And instead, what you're focused on are reactions and not responses.
Yeah, that's true. And it's very... it's very short-sighted, but I also feel like it's quite intentional. For some AB 7 was controversial. Some folks felt like it wasn't reparations. I was looking forward to seeing the lineage formula tested in court, and if upheld, it could certainly seems like it could have helped with other reparations initiatives. But
you're right there. It was an opportunity to really call Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas out on his statement. In the affirmative action decision, he says in his statement that had it been for freedmen folks as a special class, this would be a different conversation. And so AB 7 would have been an opportunity to initiate what we would call strict scrutiny from the judicial branch. We are still without that, because part of what the hesitation in a lot of cases is people are afraid to get sued or to be in a lawsuit. And so until you really push that forward, we won't know what will survive strict scrutiny. And as a result, we're just living in the kind of study space, because studies themselves are just studies. If you start to get into solutions, that's policy. You want to know, if I were to put this forward, will it stand up? And I think part of what people might be missing is, if it were to make it there and then it survives that level of scrutiny, it opens up the floodgates for what's possible around reparative justice in America, which is where we should be going.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping would come out of that. We're talking with Dr. Marcus Anthony Hunter. He is the author of a book called Radical Reparations, Healing the Soul of a Nation. We'll keep this going when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward.
All the women who independent, throw your hands up at me.
This March, we're turning up the volume on the women who changed everything. KBLA Talk 1580 is proud to celebrate Women's History Month, honoring the trailblazers, truth tellers, and game changers who shaped our world, our culture, and our community. From the freedom fighters to the firsts, from the boardroom to the front lines, from the unsung to the unforgettable. All month long, we're celebrating the stories, the voices, and the conversations that remind us that women, Black women, have always led the way. Don't miss a moment. This is our moment. This is our story. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580, Los Angeles' home for the conversations that matter.
I'm your girl, you're my girl, we your girls. Won't you know that we love you?
Are you drowning in IRS tax debt? Angela was. She called Civic Tax Relief and saved over $80,000. Felicia was having health problems, got behind on her taxes, interest and penalties were adding up. She called Civic Tax Relief and saved over $15,000. Civic Tax Relief is a professional tax negotiation firm that can protect you from the IRS. If you're getting collection letters, call Civic Tax Relief for a free consultation. They will go to work helping you discover all the relief programs you may qualify for free. James owed the IRS $37,000. Civic Tax Relief represented him against the IRS, and by the time everything was completed, he did not owe the IRS anything. If you are in trouble with the IRS, call Civic Tax Relief for your free consultation now. 800-200-2257. 800-200-2257. Get a free consultation and real tax relief. Call 800-200-2257. 800-200-2257.
They say time flies when you're having fun. The founding members cohort of The Art of Conversation is almost over. Hard to believe. It's been a joy sharing what I've discovered after nearly 40 years of conversations with presidents, cultural icons, and game changers in every field of human endeavor. If you missed the first cohort, the good news is that we're already planning the next one. Now, the seats will be limited, and those on our waiting list will receive exclusive early access and special discounts not available to the general public. So, if you are ready to transform the way you connect, lead, and build trust, do not hesitate. Go to TavishTalks.com and join the waiting list today. That's TavishTalks.com. The next cohort is coming. Make sure you are in the room. I'm Tavish Smiley, and I hope to see you there.
The conversation continues right now with Dominique DePrima on First Things First.
Dr. Marcus Anthony Hunter, you got a lot of jobs. You do. You're an author, you're an activist, and you're teaching at Howard now?
Well, not teaching yet, but yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Working with Howard, teaching where?
Teaching at UCLA.
Okay, that's what I thought. You got a lot of jobs.
Yeah,
you got a lot of jobs. And but on top of that, you continue to center reparations. That's a personal mission for you?
I feel it's a calling, in part because, and I find this with folks in the movement, and you will attest to this, is that, of course, you care from your own lived experience, but there's a part of you that feels like it's just such a bigger point, and it's such a dramatic societal oversight. Like, how have we not corrected for this as a human people?
Yeah.
You know, that's part of what pulls me forward on it, where it it doesn't even feel like a political thing. It shouldn't, because it's really like a humanitarian crisis that has gone unaddressed for centuries. And even if it were not the group to which I ascribe my own identity, I would still be supportive, because there is clear records of harm, and also I think a real premise for building out a grand, beautiful society if you address that harm. So a lot of our issues, for example, like climate change, one thing I try to do in space is bring people back to a broader understanding of reparations as inclusive of climate change. Because, for example, if it is true that millions of Africans were sold into slavery or kidnapped and then made to involuntarily migrate across oceans and rivers, involuntary migration is damaging to the ecosystem. So when you're moving millions and millions of people, and then when you get to the place that you're calling a destination and you completely retrofit how that environment was being used, it has consequences. And so a lot of times people hear reparations and just think, where's the check for Black people? If I'm not Black, I don't care, versus the apparatus called enslavement was a global scheme, a global empire that has global repercussions that include our environment.
It's an interesting point. I think part of the fear you were addressing earlier in the conversation is, we would take over and do to other groups what has been done to us. I feel like we've proven for hundreds of years that
Absolutely.
That's not what's going to happen. But what folks don't look at in terms of reparations, just even on the check side, if everyone gets a check tomorrow, that's going to positively impact the entire society, not just Black people.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we have a lesser example of PPP loans, that the economy managed to survive when people could not work because of this stimulus from the government that was about presumed harm that was going to come to people because they couldn't work versus documented harm that we know they have been living with and suffering from.
Yeah, this is a great point. So among your jobs, the job of activist, you have a letter, and I want to talk about the letter, and I want to talk about this situation in Washington that you brought to my attention.
Yeah. So for folks who don't know, Washington State is early in the game around producing a study, a reparation study. There was an RFP that went out last year for which many people were not aware, including
request for proposal.
That's right. Thank you. That many people were not aware, including major leaders in the reparations movement. And they only became aware because after going through a very problematic process as a bidder, one had only received 3 applications. Mine was the third. So for early in the nation reparations study, only 3 applications, right?
Wow.
Right. And part of what happened is that the Department of Commerce for Washington State decided to circumvent the general process, which would be to use the state's online granting system, which then notifies a larger body of people that this RFP is out there. They decided to go around that and instead just have applications go to a program officer. And in the process, it meant that, for example, I never received a confirmation that my application was received. After multiple weeks, I outreached to the program officer to say, hey, I never got a confirmation. The response was, are you sure you sent it?
Wow.
Right.
That's crazy.
Right. Can you prove you sent it? We've already finished scoring. So we're about to announce our person. We need, real evidence that this happened. And I'm like, okay, well, here's my Gmail where I can forward you what I sent, unless I specialize in making up 50-page documents in 24 hours to maybe be considered for something. I don't know what else to tell you. And so make a very long story short, they have a process where after the process is announced, you have an apparent successful bidder, and then those who are unsuccessful can get a debrief to find out what the scoring process was, what all of that was, and you have to have that debrief in order to protest the outcome. So after what I went through, I was not selected as the bidder, and I thought like, okay, moving on to the next, as Jay-Z would say. And I get this, I start getting notifications of who was selected. And the firm that was selected is a DEI firm that's led by an Asian American woman. And many people in the community wrote to me and got my phone number from a dear friend to say, Professor Hunter, please protest this. please participate, because that's the only way the community is going to be able to get documentation from what happened. And I said, okay, I wasn't prepared to, go into the schoolyard for this fight. But, after hearing from, Black Washingtonians, which are even smaller percentage than Black Californians, in the state. And so I write for the debrief. It gets denied. They say that I missed my window, even though, according to the law, I'm well within my window. I write back, bringing all these things up. The program officer supervisor denies it. And by the way, for folks who are wondering, the racial profile of these two individuals is non-Black. Okay, so a reparative justice process that's meant to study reparations. I am an African-American who is a descendant of this experience, is writing, and I'm experiencing multiple injuries along the way. I'm not being believed, and then I'm being denied my actual rights, right? So then I have to hire a lawyer, okay? This lawyer costs money and also costs labor, because in order for your lawyer to work effectively, you have to do a lot of labor for them, right?
Right.
After the lawyer responds and I pay the lawyer, then it is said, oh, we will give you this debrief as a courtesy. Exactly. And
surprise.
So make a very long story short, the debrief is they find a way to circumvent a full debrief and instead give me a kind of paperwork process that does not answer many of the questions I sent in advance. I also do a public records request so that they receive the notice that you can play Monopoly, you can play with your child, but you cannot play with me about reparations. This is not a game, okay?
Not a game.
Not a game. And so, make a very long story short, I sent in a protest. It must have done pretty well because they asked for 10 additional business days from their legal department to respond to this professor's protest. I received a response that says, we're not debating your facts, we just have discretion, based on the RFP that we wrote. And I thought, the RFP is now law? That's interesting. And so I wrote a letter to the first Black Attorney General for Washington State, Attorney General Nick Brown, to notify him, because this is the process. We're in a democracy, allegedly. And so that was January 23rd. Today is March the 6th, and I have not heard from Attorney General Nick Brown. As a result, I feel a duty to the larger movement. I notified folks in the movement across the country. I put an open letter on my website, www.marcusanthonyhunter.com/R as in reparations, O as in open, L as in letter, sharing all of those documents and also sharing the public records that I had received that demonstrate a lot of the points that I was bringing up, for us to not really visit with whether or not this contract is important, but instead how it's a metaphor for how folks who are advocates and organizing for it are treated by the very governments that exacted the harm on the population.
That story just illustrates so many things that we have in front of us that are challenging right at this moment. The fact that now there's coming to be a reparations, a reparations community, a reparations industry, kind of, and that somehow we're being gate-kept out of our bringing about our own repair is crazy work.
Absolutely.
You were talking about two non-Black people choosing an Asian-led company and boxing you out of even the conversation. So we're going to get more badges and harms of enslavement and Jim Crow in the process of implementing reparations. Yeah, let that sink in. We've got news, traffic, and sports, then more on KBLA Talk 1580.
Say the quiet part out loud. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. A federal judge has blocked President Trump's attempt to shut down New York's congestion pricing toll, leaving some residents frustrated.
It takes a toll on middle class and lower class people.
The court ruled the transportation secretary lacked authority to revoke its approval, a major win for the MTA, which says the program boosts transit funding and traffic speeds. Newly resurfaced video shows Mansfield, Ohio police arresting a Black man, David Brown Jr., on his own porch. Officers say a tip and reasonable suspicion justified the stop, later finding he had an outstanding felony warrant. An internal review found no policy violations. And Walter Mr. Tendernism Johnson now officially has the Tendernism trademark. In a new video, he celebrates the milestone alongside Black attorney Kenneth Harris, who began transferring the trademark to him, saying Johnson deserves it because he created it. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Head to Waba Grill weekdays after 3 p.m. for their $5 happy hour and try their new Chili Crisp dumplings. Bold, crunchy, and tossed in a fiery crisp, paired with a premium Wah beverage drink like their authentic Thai tea. Get both for just $5 only at Waba Grill. It's for you.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers' 3-game winning streak was snapped in Denver Thursday night. The Nuggets beat the Lakers 120-113. Another major milestone for LeBron in his 23-year career. He passed Kareem Abdul-Jabbar for the most made baskets in NBA history. Kareem had the record with 15,837. LeBron made 7 shots last night, giving him a career total of 15,842. LeBron passed Kareem in 2023 to become the NBA's all-time scoring leader. His 16 points last night gives him a record total of 43,127. The Clippers are in San Antonio tonight. A win would put the Clippers at 500 for the first time since November 3rd, when they were 3-3. San Antonio is the number 2 team in the Western Conference. They are 13-1 since February 1st. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Getting around LA doesn't have to cost a lot. Metro has fares that fit every budget. 20 free rides for qualified riders through the Life Fare program. Free passes for students with GoPass and affordable options for everyone in between. Wherever you're going, Metro's got you covered. Visit metro.net/fare programs.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio that's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Warning, evacuation in progress. Leave the building.
It's a total takeover.
That's what I want.
On Friday, March 27th, KBLA Talk 1580 belongs to the women.
Are you ready?
All day long, from 6 in the morning to midnight, the mic belongs to powerful, accomplished women, and we are not letting go. Nothing but the voices of women who inspire, challenge, and move us forward. It's the women of KBLA Talk 1580, sun up to sundown. I'm Dominique DePrima, and I'll anchor the day with a 3-hour live panel from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. on the state of black women in LA, followed by women talking to women all day long about the issues that matter most. Our hosts for the day include Jill Monroe, Adrian Shropshire, Dr. Melina Abdullah, Angela Reddick Wright, Raquel Graham, Angelique Francis, Tasha Thomas, Dr. Shalonda Crawford, Dion Raymond, and a couple of special guest hosts for the day that we'll be announcing soon. This is Women's History Month, and we're not just celebrating it, we're amplifying it. Join us Friday, March 27th on KBLA Talk 1580, where women take over all day, all night. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580 and all of our socials for the rundown. You don't want to miss a single word. And happy Women's History Month from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580.
To my ladies,
I'll show you how to work that.
Oh, how's that flu, babe? Did you take Dayquil Intense Flu yet?
Nah, I got this. Ugh, okay, I don't got this.
You stay on the couch, and I'll grab the Dayquil.
Undo your flu symptoms with Dayquil Intense Flu. Dayquil Intense Flu provides powerful relief of your flu symptoms.
I'm ready for that to-do list.
Wow, you do got this.
Dayquil Intense Flu. The daytime coughing, aching, fever, under your flu, medicine. Use as directed, keep out of reach of children.
Are you 50 or older? This news is for you. The CDC recommends you get vaccinated against pneumococcal pneumonia. Even if you're healthy, your age puts you at risk. People 50 or older are over 6 times more likely to be hospitalized with pneumococcal pneumonia compared to adults 18 to 49. Just one shot can help protect you. Learn more and schedule at vaxassist.com. That's VAXassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along. Which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ziprecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
ZipRecruiter. Heard any other talk radio lately that sounds anything like this? We didn't think so. You're listening to Unapologetically Progressive KBLA Talk 1580.
Dr. Marcus Anthony Hunter has a lot of jobs. He teaches at UCLA. He's working with Harvard University. He's an activist and an author. Radical Reparations is the book. And you just shared a really informative story about what's happening in Washington State. Where now we have a commission, or we have a report, or there are studies being done, just like further studies are being done here in California. And who gets to do it, and who gets to pick who gets to do it, and where are these dollars going? And that story of being gatekept and microaggressed in the process of trying to help with reparations is chilling, actually.
Absolutely. In part because, as you masterfully summarized before we went to break, it's a reparative justice process aimed at making whole African Americans. And here I am as an African American being injured multiple times along the way. So that already says if your process of onboarding has injury and you also have no care or aftercare process for how you're dealing with bidders, then you're in a very dangerous space. And so I want to be clear that outreaching to the Attorney General wasn't just for symbolism. I felt a duty as a citizen to notify. Maybe you're managing 19 different things, but this is your state's reparations study. And you are a Black person, and you're the first Black person in this role, which seems like that would be a great place to have oversight, because this is impactful for you both in your job and in your life as a Black person. And to see the lack of response. I haven't even gotten a message that says, we have received your message.
Wow, that's crazy. Well, okay, so you posted this open letter on MarcusAnthonyHunter.com. What can we do?
So one, what we can do is what we're doing now, which is raising awareness. I think about it as an opportunity, just like what you do every Friday for over 2 years, which is incredible. Bringing awareness to folks about what is actually happening around reparations. Because as you know, outside of what you're doing, there is no place to really go and find out how this story is unfolding locally and nationally. And so I want the Washington State example to be an opportunity for people to inform themselves of how progressive governments are managing and enacting reparations, so that we can also understand, are these the waves that we want to travel east? My thing is, this might be time to build a Hoover Dam around this, because there are certain elements and aspects that we do not want to travel. The other thing that I know is that if you don't say anything while you're in the process, especially if you have standing, later you just look like you're bitter and resentful versus saying no, this is a learning opportunity. This is an opportunity to recalibrate. And also what happens is the more I share it, the more I hear from people across the movement, and also just everyday regular folks who say, that happened to me. I've experienced that. For example, Pop Eddie Rye out in Washington State. He's been leading around minority business owners and trying to get the percentage up. And what he said to me when this was happening is that the Department of Commerce in Washington State has a pattern and practice of reducing the number of non-white people who receive contracts through the Department of Commerce. And so he's like, we keep protesting and that number keeps diminishing. And I think to myself, I can see why now, because first, people are just able to, at their discretion, decide whether or not they want to follow state laws. Also, in order for you to access your due process, you may need to hire a lawyer. Then you have to pay that lawyer and also go through a process of rejection where you will be summarily dismissed because one bad decision by one person is just basically doubled down at one level, then tripled down, and then quadrupled down. And then you look up and you spend a lot of labor and time and money on something that never was going to change. And so how do we think about that? And I think about a Black population in Washington state that is less than 7% of that state. So in order for there to be a reparations study to come forward, that means that percentage of people have been working hard. You know, they have been going up to the Capitol. They have been advocating. They've been making phone calls. They've been electing people. They've been participating in voting. They're being some of the best proponents of democracy we can think about. And this is how their issue is being treated. And they're being made to feel like if we don't accept this, they may just get rid of it. And that reminds me of California. You know, if we don't just accept that Gavin Newsom is our advocate and we don't give him cover, then we're not going to get anything. Fast forward, we're not getting anything.
Yeah. Well, I also think, and I don't know if this is possible, but tell me how you see it. Hearing your story, it feels like all of these commissions and task forces should have something built in that says the people that are being contracted to do these studies and follow-ups need to have lived experience with being Black.
Right.
I mean, I don't know if that's affirmative action. You need to have lived experience.
Right. And to your point, Washington State did do something that is innovation and gets to the point that you made, where by law, the people who are applying and then selected have to have demonstrable papers, policy, or scholarship published in the area. You needed at least 3 publications that are findable, that are able to be accessed and evaluated. And what was fascinating to me is the person selected, I could not find 3 pieces of scholarship by anyone, by them or their team in this area. And amongst the other bidders, one other person in it was Dr. William Sandy Darity. He was a part of the other bid that was rejected. And so,
wow,
exactly.
So we got 2 top reparations scholars. Nope, you can't get this.
Right.
And for me, there's another issue here, which is that I think it's great that you would have to know what you're talking about if you're going to do these studies. But there's also the point that many people who have worked on reparations as activists or community advocates are not necessarily in the top of firms, nor are they necessarily professors. I suppose those people could team up with a Darity or someone like yourself.
Right. And that was the idea, is you put together a team. So Sandy was a part of a team that had a bid in. Mind you, that second bid was from someone within the state. So this is someone who is a Washingtonian who is then bringing Sandy in as a consultant to help do the work. And that bid was not successful. In the public records request, which is accessible on my website, and also I encourage people you can go on to the Department of Commerce at Washington State and make your own records request. And I think people should understand that those requests are another form of pressure, because people then understand that, oh, people are looking at this process. People are looking at it. And part of why that's important is I'm talking from the proponent advocate side. I am a proponent of reparations for African Americans. And we also know that there's an environment where there are people who are adversaries of that policy.
Right.
And what adversaries do is they fine-tooth comb your process, right? So let's say out of this report, let's just say it's a report. There are adversaries who don't like reports existing. So what they will do is go all the way back to your RFP, your call, see if you did everything you're supposed to do. Did the state law apply? Were there any issues? And they're going to discover there were issues.
They're going to nitpick you into oblivion. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so if this was your process just in finding a bidder, and you have all of these due process issues and all of these ways you're running ramshot over people, what do you think is going to happen? I think if you don't have integrity and you don't have a sense of community involvement in the governance, the repair that you're going to put forward cannot and will not be trusted, not only by those who stand to benefit, but also for those who stand to attack it.
Yeah, I mean, to that point, we look at what happened in Santa Monica, where they stood up a reparations commission, and literally 2 weeks later, a week and a half later, they dismantled it when a new city manager came into office. That's kind of I mean, astounding, but it goes to what you were saying about that there are adversaries who will get into that process only to reverse or undermine it.
Absolutely. I mean, we can look at, President Trump as a national version of that same idea. That first, if you don't build anything, the tear down is even faster. And so part of what we're dealing with nationally is that there really wasn't an infrastructure of reparative justice or equity to tear down. It was just the name. So you just kind of ban the name, remove the grants that have the name in it, and you make everybody scared, so it creates a chilling effect, right? In this case, the other thing that's happening is if you don't have anything built, it's hard to find what you're going to protect, right? So they're not necessarily dismantling things. They're just preventing it from being built and also creating fear around the idea of building it. And I also think, when we saw California do the First in the Nation commission, California remained a state in the Union. Northern California and Southern California didn't become two separate states. They were able to say we became a state in 1850, and there was ways in which we supported and abetted the enslavement of African people in this state, even though it was 1850. And that wound up being a relatively peaceable process. There was a report that came in concert with the Department of Justice, and that meant that it's possible. And so I think part of what happens with that is that possibility makes people who are adversaries really scared, because now it's hard to say, yeah, and if we do this, the world's going to go crazy, because it didn't, Yeah. It didn't. And I also think that the larger part for me, too, is all of these reparations processes require for Black people, African Americans in particular, to share their trauma, to re-engage with their trauma, whether it be in their time or generational. And the idea that people are doing that just so that they can say that they are progressive, just so that they can say that they are supportive of inclusion or equity, is not the point. The point is to repair the damage done and to make it so that we can finally live in a world that is post-slavery rather than imbued with slavery everywhere.
It's such a great point. Why you want us to relive our trauma just for no reason so you can say you did a thing. That's right. Not worth it. That's Absolutely. Not an investment that's worth our time. And I want to look at that when we come forward, Dr. Marcus Anthony Hunter, because I've seen what happened in California, even if with myself, the betrayal and then the subsequent attempts to kind of pick the process back up. And now we're in this very hostile environment where the president actually made a declaration at the UN against the UN reparations initiative. But to me, the miracle is people are still moving.
Absolutely.
So I guess the question I want to look at is, what's the best way to move? When you have faced a betrayal, a setback, or a seeming stalling out of some pretty good momentum, what is the best way for us to be moving? I've seen some progress, I've seen some division, I've seen some backlash, and I've seen some discouragement. So what's the best way to go forward? We'll look at that on a Freedmen Friday. It's KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward.
They call it progress, but progress has a price. Land once held in Black hands, taken, stolen, erased. Acres paved into highways, fields burned. Homes replaced by parking lots and broken promises. Every deed lost was a dream deferred. We talk about millionaires, but what about the millionaires that never were? The farmers whose soil was seized, the families who watched their inheritance disappear, the wealth that never had a chance to grow because its roots were ripped from the ground. They took the land, but never the legacy, because the soil remembers, and so do we. Every story matters. Our mission is to collect, preserve, and amplify these stories. If this is part of your family's history, visit blacklandlost.org/share your story and help bring us closer to justice.
Attention community leaders, are you ready to strengthen your impact in the community? For more than 25 years, Community Development Services has helped nonprofits build strong communities by empowering community leaders and emerging professionals with the support they need to create lasting change. Starting a nonprofit or need a fiscal sponsor? Need expert nonprofit accounting services? Want nonprofit financial management training for your staff? Are you a college accounting student seeking an internship opportunity? Call 424-289-4330 or visit communitydevelopmentservicesinc.org. Community Development Services, providing support, improving communities.
My ride smells just right, just right, just right, just right.
Y'all gotta try that Febreze car.
Just right, just right, just right, yeah. La 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 la. With up to 40 days of consistency on low Febreze car clips right on your vent. You know my car's my happy place. Keep that smile on my face when it smells just right, just right, just right. Yeah. Breathe happy Febreze. La 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 la.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Created with a share of the 1984 Olympic Games surplus, LA 84 began operations in 1985 as a grant-making and educational foundation. Today, the LA 84 Foundation supports hundreds of nonprofit youth sports organizations throughout Southern California annually, trains coaches, commissions research, convenes conferences, and maintains the world's premier Olympic and sports library collection. They are transforming lives and communities through the power of youth sports. To find out about youth sports programs for yourself or your child, and to get information about the grants and support they offer to schools and nonprofits, or if you want to make a donation, please visit la84.org. That's la84.org. Or you can call them at 323-730-4600. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where hate loses and love wins.
Dr. Marcus Anthony Hunter is my guest, and I was asking about the bounce back, the resilience, the push back and push through. Obviously, we won't be deterred by Trump's proclamation towards the UN, but some folks were deterred or embittered or confused by what happened in California. It seems like the same could be happening in Washington and Maryland.
Yeah, I think when I see something like what President Trump did, it's a reminder that we are making a difference, you know, because people don't go after, veto, or block something that doesn't matter. You know, something that isn't making headway, something that doesn't have momentum, you don't block it, you know, because it doesn't have momentum. And I think that it's important for us to remember how far we have gotten, you know, where even if people are against reparations, they're against it. You know, now it's standing as something to be against versus a taboo that even the people who are a part of the group that would benefit don't talk about it.
Yeah, it was considered fringe.
Right.
And some people still, black people, like to dismiss it. That ain't never going to happen.
Right.
So why are you spending your time on that? But you're right. People are taking positions. Even the president is taking positions. I will see if it comes to play in this governor's race here in California. I think it should.
Absolutely.
So it sounds like you're saying the way forward, the way is just put our head down and keep pushing.
Yeah, I think, or I would say keep our head to the sky, you know. So
keep our head up and keep pushing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been thinking a lot about, I listen to the song Optimistic, Sounds of Blackness. Shout out to Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis almost every single day, sometimes twice a day. And there's a line in it where they're saying sort of in the back of the hook, never say die. And I used to think about that as never give up, like translating that. And I really think that what they're getting at is, no, just don't use that word. Like never say that word.
Literally don't say die.
Because we are alive. We're about living, you know, and we want to live a good life. And we want to live the life that is promised to us, the life that's our birthright. And reparations is a part of that. Not just for those of us who are survivors of American chattel slavery, but also for all Americans who are receiving and inheriting a narrative of a country that decided to dehumanize African people and Native and Indigenous people at the same time. What does it mean to come into a country of people that is based on people being understood as not people? How do you repair that? How do you course correct for that? And reparations is really that cure for, I think, the dis-ease that we see all around the country, which is about people putting people into hierarchies of mattering, looking at other people and seeing in the next person stuff you can't get now because it's a zero-sum game. How do we get to something that is different, something that is less Hunger Games like? Mm-hmm. And that, I think, is where reparations has a promise to America. That it can be something more than what we're seeing every day. There is more to go around than we're told. And I think that's part of why there's that pushback. The last thing I'll say, and this is just from any child who grows up in some form of poverty or whatever, is light is a very powerful object. If you ever have someone who is trying to do harm to you, if there's someone up to no good, if there are pests or rodents around, the minute lights come on, they scatter.
Yeah.
And so I see one of the goals and one of the things that we must be up to is what you're doing right now is continually to shine that light, to not allow the space to go dark. Because when things go dark, other things can creep in and take up space. But if we keep that light shining, no matter who's in power or who's saying what, it makes it really hard for darkness to take up space after all of these years of this issue living in darkness.
Man, makes me want to pray for Cuba when you say that, the Cuban people sitting in the dark right now because of us. But it's a great point. I think that let me pose this as a question. Do you see change in the way your colleagues in academia talk about reparations?
Yeah, I see one change in that a lot of people are talking about it. That's a big change. And also teaching about it. Which is another change. That means that we're also getting to an arsenal of scholarship that can be used in a classroom so students don't think it's your personal opinion. The other thing is that, and this is what drives any classroom really, is student hunger. The students are hungry for solutions. They're hungry for something that teaches them the history and also tells them in the current moment, here's how we're trying to make that right. They don't want to just hear, there were people brought on ships and this is what happened. The land was taken. They want to hear okay, so what are we doing right now to deal with that? I have a class that I'm teaching at UCLA right now called Urban America, where my students are currently doing discovery-based learning, where we have in-class lecture, and then they have a couple of weeks to go out and engage with Los Angeles. So right now they're in their civic engagement process, where I have them go to City Hall, go to the observatory, because in that observatory, you can see the entire of LA County. You can see that there's all of this development in the north and no development in the south. You can also see how there's all this potential for housing in southern parts of the city and that's not being built, so you get to see the city, you get to see the mayors in that corridor. And part of what I've gotten from several students are, well, how do I get to City Hall? It's going to take me 4.5 hours, if I try to go from Westwood to City Hall, and it costs $40 in an Uber to get there and $40 back. And the whole point of this exercise is to have them ask themselves, what does it mean to live in one of the nation's most populous cities and to have a city hall you can't access, that you can't get to on public transportation? What is that telling you about how the government wants you to understand it? Do you feel represented? And a lot of them are just used to everything coming to UCLA versus having to go out and find how the city is organized. And I think that's an important lesson for us to all know. When was the last time the average person has been to their city hall? Do you know who your city representatives are at council level, at the legislature level, and also at the national level? And so that's what I have the students doing. And they're like, well, how do I find this person? It's like, okay, so I'm learning now we have to learn how to be civically engaged. And reparations, I think, is a good template for people to understand who's all involved to try to make this happen.
Thank you so much for this inspiration and information on a Freedman Friday. MarcusAnthonyHunter.com. That's where we can find the open letter.
Yes.
And much more. Thank you once again.
You already know.
And for all the work you do as well. Phone lines are open. We're talking about it. We're standing by to live stream the homegoing services of the Reverend Jesse Jackson as soon as they get underway. I understand they're having a wake right now for this first part, so we're going to keep talking. But as soon as they step to the mic and carry those services, we will be there with you live. It's KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. A federal judge has blocked President Trump's attempt to shut down New York's congestion pricing toll, leaving some residents frustrated.
It takes a toll on middle class and lower class people.
The court ruled the transportation secretary lacked authority to revoke its approval, a major win for the MTA, which says the program boosts transit funding and traffic speeds. Newly resurfaced video shows Mansfield, Ohio police arresting a black man, David Brown Jr., on his own porch. Officers say a tip and reasonable suspicion justified the stop, later finding